Hello, everybody. So today we're talking about the case of Rico Omarr Harris. All the links I used to research will be down below, like always. There will also be a link to a case suggestions forum. I haven't talked about that in a while. And there's also a link to my new podcast that came out very recently called Wicked, if you'd like to go check that out. So this case, I originally heard about it, I believe it's from Kendall Ray. And it's definitely a head scratcher. Maybe you've heard of it, maybe you haven't. I haven't really heard of it other than when Kendall spoke about it, but I wanted to talk about it with you guys. It's definitely perplexing, so yeah. Let's go ahead and get into this. I don't want to ramble on too long. So Rico was born on May 19th, 1977. He was the first son of Henry Harris and Margaret Fernandez. Henry, a semi-pro basketball player, was violent and abusive, and he would turn his anger onto Margaret and Rico. By the early 1990s, Margaret divorced him, thankfully, and took Rico with her. Like his dad, Rico showed an interest in playing basketball from a young age. He eventually reached a height of 7 feet. A very tall man. He lived with his mom in Alhambra. I'm so sorry if I pronounced this wrong. Alhambra? I believe it's Alhambra, California. But he used his dad's Temple City, California address to attend high school there, where his talent for the game would begin to rise. Through his high school career, he was praised for his NBA level potential and began getting noticed by college scouts. Eventually, he settled on Arizona State University in Tempe. In March of 1996, he would be arrested for unlawful imprisonment after two women claimed that some players, including Rico, raped them. Charges would be dropped after there were noticeable inconsistencies in the girls' stories. Rico transferred to LA City College, where he led the team to its first state championship, and he would reject several NBA offers so he could finish his degree. In 1998, he transferred to California State University at Northridge, close to his mom, but he started getting suspended for being a disruptive influence and eventually was kicked off the team. Eventually, he started to play semi-professionally um, for teams like the San Diego Stingrays and the St. Louis Storm. By March 2000, he was playing for the Harlem Globetrotters, and things began to look up until they weren't. Less than a month after joining, he was attacked so severely he couldn't play anymore. Details on the assault are unclear, but he would return home to his family where he would go into a downward spiral. So from 2000 to 2007, he fell victim to alcohol addiction, which spiraled into heroin, crack, and meth. He would rack up a dozen arrests and even OD'd on meds at one point. But in 2007, he began to turn his life around. He got clean after completing a rehab program. He got a steady job working as a security detail and began a relationship with a girl named Jennifer Song. In September 2014, he moved to Seattle with Jennifer. On October 9th, 2014, he paid a visit to his family, but it would be a brief one. After buying a new cell phone for his younger brother as a present, he left for Seattle after midnight on October 10th. So, if you're wondering why it was brief, the articles were kind of scarce. Apparently, had some sort of there was some sort of tension or issues that he had with his mom and dad, kind of like no matter what he did, he wasn't good enough, and he just wanted to visit them and talk through things, but they weren't very receptive of it. Apparently, there were some other issues at play, but it didn't go into detail, so I'm not really sure. And that's kind of why it was so brief. And he ended up leaving after midnight on October 10th. He traveled north on Interstate 5. He would stop at a gas station just outside Sacramento to refuel. At 10:45 a.m. on October 10th, 2014, he called Jennifer and told her that he'd be, quote, going up the mountains to rest. He hadn't gotten much sleep and wanted to arrive feeling refreshed. He had a job interview lined up the next day as a property appraiser. At 11:15 a.m., he lost cell phone reception and never regained it back. 3 days later, police found his car in the parking lot of a remote park California Route 16 near Cache Creek, about 60 miles northeast of Sacramento, but Rico was nowhere to be found. For days, police searched the area using all-terrain vehicles, airplanes with thermal imaging, and they also used search dogs. They eventually found his backpack with his phone inside. They found all but one of his credit cards in his car, along with a plastic bottle with alcohol inside. A few people reported seeing a man that matched his description the week after he disappeared, but none were positively identified as being Rico. By October 22nd, the search was scaled back, and he still hasn't been found. And that is all the information I have for you. Now, this one is perplexing because when he told Jennifer that he was going up the mountains to rest, that kind of gave me a weird vibe. It kind of feels like maybe he wanted to disappear more than just for a rest. Um, you know, for a lot of his life, he'd been going through a lot of things, from being falsely accused of rape to being suspended off of a team to alcohol addiction to his assault that basically ended what could have been a really good career, to drug addiction for several years, and just for his entire life basically having the issues with his family like he did his mother and father, and clearly going back on this trip to visit them and try to work through some things, whatever those issues might be. He has obviously been going through a lot, and it kind of feels like maybe this visit wasn't just tense and it kind of feels like maybe it could have been a goodbye trip in a way, maybe one last time to see them, one last time to see if anything get worked out, kind of to close some things in his head, maybe some chapters, and maybe it was his way of ending things, and then he told Jennifer goodbye. He was going to go take up a rest because he was tired, and maybe he never intended on going home. When he said that, it kind of what it felt like to me. I don't know why you'd be going up to the mountains for some rest when you could literally just go literally anywhere else to take a quick nap. I don't know, it kind of feels like he was saying bye to everyone, and because he clearly had a hard life, and maybe he just got to a point where he couldn't fake it anymore. So it kind of feels like maybe it was a suicide, possibly. And that's just kind of what it felt like to me, or maybe he didn't kill himself because they never found a body. Maybe it's just one of those things, he's an adult, he just wanted to disappear. He wanted to start over in life. He wanted a new name, a new identity. He wanted to just break away from this life, and he was saying goodbye to his old one. And so he just left everything behind, and he just left. And maybe those possible sightings of him, even though they weren't positively identified, were him, possibly. And maybe he is still out there somewhere. I mean, it very well could have been foul play, because just everything being left behind in his car and just being up in the mountains, you're in a remote area, you can definitely come across some sketchy people, but just, I feel with how the trip went in general, it wasn't a good visit with his family, or with his parents, I should say. I don't know. It feels like maybe he didn't intend on coming back, but I could very well be wrong. Like I said, it could be foul play. It could be literally anything. We just don't know. But this one just had me scratching my head. They did so many searches with dogs, with airplanes, and they just didn't find anything. It's just weird to me. But let me know your guys' thoughts down below. Thank you so much for listening to Rico's story. I'm interested in hearing what you have to say, and I will see you guys very soon. Bye, guys.